meets the age requirement, which is set at 18. For the avoidance of doubt, that is not a new policy. It is a policy that has been there for a long time. Good morning, Mr. Larry. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Jesse. Good morning, Abuja.
All
We're doing
right.
well today.
We're doing well. We're doing well. What do you make of this enforcement? I mean, like the professor said, it's not a new policy. We're just reinforcing. We're just enforcing it right about now. What do you make of this enforcement?
The first thing I want to ask is why wasn't it enforced? Why wasn't that policy enforced all this time? That's number one question. And those who want to take the exams, I think it's so. What if someone is maybe 14 and the person is in maybe 13 and in SS1? So what will happen? The person will start marking time because of the policy. Now, that's a very difficult question. That is the issue of when you start the enforcement. Because granted that the policy has been there, but they were not enforcing the policy. And that's a serious indictment on the way we do things in Nigeria. They have not been enforcing the policy, and now you want to enforce it, and you say, okay, I'll give 1 year grace. So if you are taking the next exam, fine, we can just let you go. And then for the subsequent years, we are enforcing. I think we need to be more deliberate about educational reform. While it is important to check to play by the rules, we need to also even look at the policies in question. When was this policy made? Who made it? What was the basis for determining 18 years? I'll be honest with you, to finish secondary school at the age of 17, 18. Maybe 17, yes, 18. And you begin to wonder, so what was the person doing? Now, even much earlier, in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, people were finishing secondary school at 16, 17 already. So I don't know the essence of the policy. Are we trying to say, oh, like people should more mature when we get into the university? If that is our position, the next question becomes, what is maturity? People mature at different times. There are children who are gifted. Does that policy make room for gifted children who graduate at maybe even 15 years? If you go to other countries, go check Guinness Book of Records, you see amazing statistics. There are some people who graduated and became doctors at the age of 22. My own brother was a practicing doctor in this country at 23. That is, he was serving in Borno State as a doctor, for some time doctor, but he was a very competent doctor. So we need to also check, even all over the world, we have room for gifted children. Does this our policy actually give room for gifted children?
Mr. Larry,
If yes,
before we
does the
get
policy
to
include
before we get to gifted children, right? Let's look at this issue of maturity. There's argument that children who move from a controlled these are under 18 children who move from a controlled environment. This is secondary school, or maybe you were in boarding school, you were with your parents, you were under their watchful eye, and all of a sudden you're going to a completely uncontrolled environment. It makes it vulnerable.
to not be an uncontrolled environment?
How so?
It shouldn't be a jungle. No, the fact that you're in the university doesn't mean that you're uncontrolled. They have rules in universities all over the world. You have the way you're expected to behave. It may not be a boarding house where you're asked to sleep at a certain time and wake up at a certain time, but the environment is still controlled. No freedom is absolute. Even the whole country is controlled. That's why you have laws and regulations and guidelines. For instance, fasten your seatbelt. If you don't fasten it, to punish you. So there is no environment that 15-year-olds that have a mental age of the 25-year-old person. That is, at 15, they are reasoning like 20 years old, 25-year-old. There are some 30-year-olds that are reasoning like people who are 17 years. There are some 35-year-old men, I wanted to say young men, they're not young. You know, Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world where youth leaders are 55 years, but I don't want to digress. There are 35-year-old men who are still sitting in their parents' houses and quarreling with their house girl for not giving them enough meat. They are thinking like schoolboys. Because at that age, you should, even if you don't have money, you don't wait to be 35 to leave your father's house.
So age isn't
So,
isn't
so
isn't a
age does not necessarily spell maturity. We should have a policy that will provide a realistic guideline. And that policy should recognize that people mature. First of all, I'll be honest with you, personally, I think pegging the age at 18 is too high. But then there should be a guideline. And that guideline should recognize the fact that children are exposed to a whole lot. Now, what I mean is
compared to
they,
before.
they acquire skills faster, both verbal skills and different kinds of skills, because the level of informal education is very high. When the minister was growing up, he didn't have access to tablets and video games. All of those things are informal education process. That's why kids are now more eloquent, they are more assertive. 30, 40 years ago, wouldn't even imagine, except the person was a gifted child. But then we need to find the balance. And what is the balance? You have to look at that age. That will not time, and that's not that doesn't make sense to me. You are practically slowing people down. And what of those who are already on track to graduate at 16? What do you do with them? So they should go back and start marking time like they're on parade and waiting for your. Yeah, you're just going to compare people to begin to engage in fraudulent and corrupt practices, because this is
Yes.
Nigeria. So why don't you create an environment that will not even encourage corruption? Sometimes we just do things that will encourage corruption and bad behavior, you know. So I think the ministry should review their position. That's my clear this, because how do you verify this? We shouldn't actually go that way. We need to look at the fact that these policies, and at what age do you expect a person to be mature enough to get into the university? How do we make room for persons who mature even faster? Are there, should we have exceptions? How do we assess the kids to know if they're especially gifted? Do we have the facilities to do that assessment? Of course not. In people of going to the university at the age of 16, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it.
All
If
right.
the person has the capacity, I mean, the person has in the boarding house trains you to be independent of family to some extent. You know, if you look at life itself is graded. You start from home, and then let us assume that you live in the boarding house. In the boarding house, you are separated from family and close friends. You make new contacts. Then you learn to manage provisions. You learn to manage pocket money. You learn to make decisions for yourself. If you are in a mixed school, you learn how to manage the opposite sex. All of those things begin to happen. Even if you are in a boys' school or girls' school, you have interactions during debates and all that. Then that is the second phase. Then the third phase, you get into the university. The idea is that when you were in the boarding house would have helped you form habits of eating breakfast at a certain time, eating lunch at a certain time, eating dinner at a certain time. So by the time you form those habits, when you get to the university, those habits will guide you to behave properly. That's when you are taught how to dress well. That's why they had inspections in secondary schools to ensure that your clothing were properly ironed and all of that. That if you are properly taught and mentored in secondary school, going into the university won't be such a huge challenge. That's when moral foundations are strengthened. Whatever your family did was supposed to be strengthened by your school.
All
And then
right.
when you get into the university, they tell you stories, or when they do the October rush, that's what they call it in some schools. The young girls will understand that, see, I didn't come here to get into relationships, I came here to study. So I think it's important that we look at education reform from a holistic perspective, not from a disjointed, okay, today we want to limit the age because small boys and small girls are in schools now. I
Yes,
don't think
yes,
that
Mr.
is the
Larry,
exclusive
that
problem.
that actually is an issue because right now there's an increase in the number of people who consume illicit drugs within the university space. I mean, this is supposed to be a space that is sort of monitored in a way, but we still have children, students who have easy access to illicit drugs within the space of the university. And then when you talk about drugs, there's also the place of peer pressure. right? There's also that place of peer pressure, and maturity also has a role to play in a bit in that you are able to stay and say no to whatever pressures that are getting you to consume illicit drugs. But the number of individuals, the number of students who consume illicit drugs within the space of the university has gone way beyond what it used to be, whether we like it or not.
Well, when you talk about the use of drugs, we should also acknowledge that even in secondary school, a lot of young people are now experimenting with drugs. I hope you're also aware that we have cultists in secondary schools in Nigeria. Secondary schools. I mean, the drug users have expanded basically because the drug sellers are looking for new markets. It's just like people in Nigeria are not really very, very mindful of the kind of things they expand. And of course, the law enforcement agencies are not living up to expectations. Do you know that? Sorry, but I have to say this the way it is. I was in Ghana when some Nigerians were arrested in the course of trying to conduct induction of Ghanaian undergraduates into a course. So my friend was telling me that other countries are exporting technology, you guys are exporting cultism. You know, the challenge we have is, while I agree that peer pressure is an issue in terms of how you manage it, it's not just peer pressure that is the issue here, because the ability to make peer pressure is not necessarily a matter of age. It's a matter of how you were raised, the values you have, your understanding of peer pressure as a child. I remember an incident that happened to me personally when I was in primary school, primary, not secondary. I had two friends in my class, and they asked me to come for some kind of outing. We usually visit one another. And on that occasion, they said that I should agree that there's something all of us must do. I said, okay, I agree. And then they brought out a cigarette, and I said, no, I don't agree anymore. And they said, no, that you must agree, that you have already agreed. I said, no, I withdraw my agreement. Primary school, I think I was in primary six. I said, no, my dad doesn't smoke, my mom doesn't smoke. In fact, it's the fact that I won't. And these boys refused to talk to me for almost one whole term, and they were the only friends I had. One of them was the son of our landlord then. And I just forgot about them, because I had to choose between the values and the crisis this thing was going to cause for me and them. And in any case, my dad taught us the effect of smoking. We were well prepared to walk away from smoking before they started making it a public issue. So I made a choice in primary school that adults don't make in the university, because I was well taught. So when we bandy about theories, when we assume that managing peer pressure is a matter of age, it's not true. Let me surprise you. Do you know that even men who are married collapse to peer pressure? Some men will tell them, this is your wife that is giving you a headache, go and beat her thoroughly. That is peer pressure. And this man that was nice to go and beat the wife up, isn't that peer pressure? I'm talking of adults who are in their 30s. So peer pressure is not just a matter of age. It's a matter of preparing people to manage influence, whether it's an influence from your peers or not. So I think we're mixing up this issue by just creating boundaries. We are creating rigid boundaries. These things are not, human development is not about rigid boundaries. Just as all the boys and all the girls don't mature physically at the same time, we also don't all mature mentally at the same time. That's the truth of the matter. And our mental maturity is about a combination of nature and nurture. We are not doing enough when it comes to nurture, and we have to. I'm just saying that while some of these things we talk about are important, they should not be taken in isolation. No, you shouldn't take peer pressure in isolation. You shouldn't take age of graduation in isolation. You should look at a policy that will take care of people who are naturally fast in academic understanding, who are also mentally mature to handle the university environment. That is, you should be able to accommodate all of these things, because you don't go and retard people's progress because you want to do educational policy. But on the other hand, you don't allow people who may not have the capacity to manage the sophistication of the university environment to get in there. What I'm saying is that we shouldn't develop simplistic solutions and just say everybody, if you're not 18, don't go into the university. So the assumption is that once you're 18, you are mature. And that once you're 18, you can resist peer pressure. Says who?
But Mr. Larry, this argument can be said, this same argument, somebody else can twist this argument and use this particular same argument that you're making for 18 years for marriage as well, for issues like underage marriage and all that. Some people will argue that men and women mature a lot faster than men, and because of that, you have a child who is under 18 who can, if she's mature enough body wise and all that, if she's mature enough to handle if she's mature enough physically, then she's mature enough to get into marriage. Some people can use the same argument in that light as well.
Some people are already using it, not that they can use it. They are permitted to use it to their own detriment. But I said to their own detriment because managing education is not the same thing as managing a family. We know what happens when you have a family. You also have children. It's not just about you, two of you. It's about VVF. It's about raising children. It's about so many. It's about economic independence. So it's a lot more sophisticated. The people are already brandishing that argument. But when you look at the issue of marriage, if you want to call a spade, the law prescribes that you are not supposed to marry under a certain age. Theoretically, that argument applies. I mean, there are some people who may marry at 17 and nothing really goes wrong because they have the body structure and everything to manage the marriage. There are some people who, by virtue of their own physical development, can deliver children comfortably at 17. I'm talking now, that's medically speaking. There are 17-year-old girls who can have children, but you have to also be able to nurture the child and all that. So it's the considered opinion of the law that for the purpose of standard, that people should marry at 18. And that's why you have laws. But yes, some people may use the argument. The argument is already being used. There are some people who marry under some traditional law and custom that marry at less than 18. And when we ask them, they say that their religion permits it, their culture permits it. So people are already forwarding that argument, like I said, to their own detriment. But it's not everybody, sorry, with all due respect, and I'm not encouraging child marriage. It's not every girl that is 17 that got married that didn't do well. That is the truth of it. If you want to really be objective, we need to ask ourselves some questions. But when it comes to marriage, yes, you have to have this kind of point where you say, this is the point, it's a legal matter. When it comes to education, you also have to have a policy. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a policy. I'm saying that 18 is too high. 2 is that you should have a window for those who are gifted. 3 is that you should have parameters for finding those who are gifted. So those who are not gifted will jump into the window of those who are gifted. And 4, you should not assume that maturity is a thing of age. It is not. Maturity is mental. That's why we talk about mental age of a person. You may have a physical age of 18 and have the mental age of 25. And then you may have a physical age of 30 and have a mental age of 20. So I think we need to have a more detailed conversation and then policy that will address where we are in the global village. That is, how fast do people mature? When did we actually enact this policy, and why? So I think we should pragmatic and detailed about policies. We shouldn't do things in isolation. I've raised an issue nobody's even talking about. Are they going to be able to implement it? The answer is no. How do I know? Because they're going to check the age of the child. And this is Nigeria, my sister. You know how Nigeria works. People will go and brandish affidavit, and then they will get admission. So it means that they're just blowing hot air. Then if they say, okay, we are going to even check, okay, when were you admitted into school, blah, 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 they take bribe. This is Nigeria. The schools want customers now. We have private universities. Have you forgotten? So let's not just deceive ourselves and be pretending that, it will work. It won't work. Let's even call a spade a spade. In Nigeria, it won't work. Both public universities and private universities will admit them. All they have to do is go and get your declaration of age, and they will admit them.
Mr. Larry,
So
why do you think this
why waste all
enforcement?
this time when we know that it won't work? I can tell you authoritatively that it won't work, and you know it won't work. Look at universities spending money to advertise for undergraduate to apply on television and elsewhere. And then they have a customer, the person is saying, oh, the person is 1 year short. That they will just give us, what we need is evidence that you're 18, isn't it? And you know how we can get that evidence in Nigeria.
Mm.
So they should think of ways to improve education. We don't have teachers. We don't have proper education regulation. The universities that are talking about 18 years and maturity are universities that don't have lecturers. I can tell you authoritatively that universities hire lecturers during NUC accreditation. You can quote me. That is, they borrow lecturers, put their nameplate on doors. That is how fraudulent our country has become. That's they will borrow lecturers, including professors, put their nameplates on doors, pretend they are in the school
Staff of
as
the
staff for
school.
purpose of accreditation. Then after accreditation, they will remove the name plates and they walk away. That is the country you are talking about. You are discussing maturity or no maturity, focusing on whether they are 17 or 18. When they are going to a school where adults will sit down and circumvent regulations, where NUC will go there, knowing fully well that these people are just crooks, they will still give them accreditation. We have accredited this course, we have accredited that course. This is a country where they will say, don't admit more than 50 students in your law faculty. Don't admit more than, and they will admit more and nothing will happen. So let us look at more fundamental issues. Is it important to look at that one too? Yes. But I'm saying that I don't think it's the biggest problem we have now. And you know they cannot implement it. I can tell you authoritatively that because you said age is 18. This is Nigeria. Affidavit will say the person is 18, deposed to by the mother, and you're not the person's mother. So what next? You admit the person because the university wants candidates. They want the school fees. So let's really not waste time talking about this because it will not work. Let me just to the end conversation. It will not work. They should think of ways to sanitize our university system, and you can't sanitize university system without sanitizing secondary school, and you can't sanitize secondary school without sanitizing primary school, because the child goes through primary to secondary to university. Now they have courts in the secondary schools. If you're a courtist in secondary school, why won't you be a courtist in the university? So if they want to treat education well, they should go down to primary education. Of course, they work on all of them simultaneously. But the truth is that reform should start from the foundation. If the foundation of a building is weak, it's extremely difficult to make that building strong. And reconstruction foundations, even in civil engineering, is a very difficult job. It's easier to change the roof of a house than to reinforce the foundation. Because the foundation is carrying the entire structure. If you make a mistake, the entire house can collapse on you. And that's what is happening to us. We are not managing our foundation well in education. And that is why there are some undergraduates who cannot write an essay. There are undergraduates who cannot write composition, not essay. There are undergraduates who cannot write their names properly. And I'm not joking. I've seen undergraduates who wrote their names starting with small letter. And they are telling me about, and these undergraduates who wrote their names starting with small letter, they are 30 years, they are 25 years. Some of them are 23 years. So these things are not just a factor of age. There are several factors that combine to make a proper undergraduate that is in the university and focused on his or her studies and all of that.
Okay.
To engage in cultism and cause trouble. It's not just a matter of age. Go and check the people who are killing others in the universities. They are not the 18-year-olds, they are not the 19-year-olds. Go and check those who are the capones and the leaders of courts. They are not the 18-year-olds, they are not the 19-year-olds. Most of the time, they are older people that are causing these problems.
All right. You can join the conversation. 0808-312-8618 is the number to call. 0808-312-8618 is the number to call to be a part of our conversation as well. We're live on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja. You can join us live on YouTube, Voice of the People Abuja. All right. Mr. Larry, we had a there was a conversation that was had rather with a Dr. Bukola Dosumi. She's a former president of Association of Private Schools Proprietors here in Nigeria, and she talked about the age limit for tertiary education, and she talked about how the policy will help handle the horrid child syndrome. Let's take a listen to what she said.
What we have here is a national policy. A policy on entry age for schools at different levels and requirements for it to be followed. Now, we need to be true to ourselves in Nigeria, and that's where this issue comes in, because if we mirror this policy and the issues we're generating around with the pronouncement in the light of the global practices, then we know that we're not being true and sincere to ourselves. So it's a policy for the country of the age that children need to come in. It's a policy that is going to help us to handle the horrid child syndrome. It's a policy that's going to be a panacea for a lot of issues if we have time to discuss it. We have problems with class keeping. We have the problem of examination malpractice. You are aware of the miracle and special centers. If you do an undercover report and go to those centers, you will see the age of those children. You will see there are children that have skipped SS3 classes from SS1 or SS2 that are going there. It's going to also strengthen the poor examination standards we have in some of our public schools. I'm sorry to say, but we know that we'll rather opt for the national examinations for some than take the state's ERC examination. It's also going to help and relieve the burden of rote learning on teachers, because most of the children in our classrooms are underaged. I am not saying most.
Not some
of the children, honestly.
Okay,
you need
some,
to go.
not
You need,
most.
yeah, let me
just to be clear.
Let me just take the word some.
Right.
But you will be shocked at what you will see in our schools. We have schools that close, that graduate children from primary 4. We have schools that take children in at 3.5, 4.5 years into primary 1 classes. We have schools that skip from GS2. They make some children write some public exam. All these things are clear to the regulators.
Isn't that a failure of the regulator?
Now you're hitting it.
Isn't there a regulator to ensure that these sharp practices or malpractices don't happen? And some of the problems you've just listed, are they really a function of age? Is it age that's contributing to this? Really? Because some are saying, look, why don't you focus on infrastructure, teachers' welfare, making sure that the quality education is provided, and not majoring on what some refer to as minors.
All right, Mr. Larry, I know you get the gist of it. What's your take on this?
Clear about it. First of all, I disagree with some of our assertions. It is not underage students that go to miracle centers. Incidentally, I consult for private schools, public schools. I do a lot of work in the educational sector. Presently, I consult for the Association of Private School Owners in the Southeast. Some of them in the Southeast. I do a lot of work with the educational sector. The miracle centers are not necessarily populated by the underage students. We need to clear that. It's just a phenomenon that people want to reap where they did not sow. So I don't want us to say it's about underage students. No. So having said that, I think I agree with her. And that is something that I've also alluded to already, that we shouldn't necessarily force children to go to school and then land in university at 15. So where is the person running to achieve what? But if the person is specially gifted, I've always said that you shouldn't stop the person. So I've said clearly that you should have a window for those who are specially gifted, and you should be able to identify them. And then on the other hand, what I've been saying is simple. Let me create that balance. Let me make my position clear. A lot of people are saying, no, let people just go at their own pace. Others are saying, no, place the ceiling. And I'm saying, have a recommendation. That doesn't have to necessarily be 18. Because I suspect 18 is a little high for this time and age. And also leave that window and create the simple parameters for identifying gifted children early. I do not subscribe to children skipping from primary 4 to JS1 or even from primary 5. My father was an educationist, my mother same. So all these things are saying are things I started hearing when I was a toddler. In my family, you must do primary 5 and 6. All of us will take the common entrance at primary 5 level, pass it. Then my dad will say, go to primary 6, and you cry your eyes out as in you passed. The man will just tell you, that was a rehearsal, go to primary 6. There's a reason we established primary 6, so you go there. So after the crying, you go to primary 6. And then when you get to the secondary school, you still take all of the exams 1 year earlier as rehearsal. Then you pass. The man will tell you, well, for congrats, that was good rehearsal. You go and finish what you started. So I know about the effect of this thing. But I'm saying also that one should get to that point where you look at things. You don't just say, oh, because he's 18, and you see a child that is doing very well, both in terms of maturity and in terms of academic work, you say, no, you must wait till 18. That's not fair to the child. But a situation where parents deliberately shop for schools that will take their children when they fail exams. So you rush the person from primary 4 to JS1, and then the person is struggling. The person fails in JS1, you go and shop for another private school to take her in JS2. The person fails again, you shop for another, and just keep pushing the person. That is not right too. Both extremes are wrong. When you ask somebody who is smart to wait and just wait because government says so, it is wrong. When you also go and push somebody who is not competent to be on the speed lane, it is also wrong. So I don't think we should be thinking in terms of black and white. We should be thinking in terms of gray. You have to make policies, but those policies should have safety valves. That's how advanced countries do it. We are copying them, right? We are copying their democracy, we are copying their cars, we are copying. So why can't we also copy properly? Do you know that a child that I think this child was 15 or 16 when he conducted his first cesarean surgery under the watchful eyes of both parents? I think in India, the youngest to conduct a successful operation, cesarean, on a human being or not on a dummy. I don't know how that woman agreed. So the point I'm making is that we need to get to that point where we stop designing solutions that are mechanical for social applications. Understand what I said? You can't design mechanical solutions to social applications. So you say, if you are not 18, don't go to school, whoever you may be. That is not, it's not a car, it's not a mechanical solution, it's a social problem. So you have to look at social solutions. And the assertion that it is because young people are in school that we have all our problems is not true. That is, exam malpractice is a factor of corruption, and the fact that we have teachers who are also corrupt. When we were in school, the teachers were not just our teachers, they were role models and moral authorities. Today, teachers collude with students to cheat. In fact, our teachers are almost like our policemen. They have lost all vestiges of respect because of the way they behave. Sorry, with apologies to good teachers and good policemen. Because I don't understand how a teacher can sit down and collect money from students to facilitate cheating. You don't think about it when we were in school. If you saw your teacher, if you were thinking of, when I say cheating in those days, it was just to giraffe, ordinary, to just look small or ask one question, number, what do you think? Number 2, I've forgotten. You see your teacher from afar, you freeze. Today, teachers will ask you to pay. You pay, bring your money. Invigilator is come, want to settle invigilator. Teacher, hello. And we're not discussing that. We are discussing age. In isolation, no, I don't agree. If we want to solve our problems, we should design solutions for different parts of the problem. There's no silver bullet that will fix our educational sector. No, there is no silver bullet. We have a myriad of problems. We have to design solutions that are as diverse as the problems. Just saying children must go to school at 18, they get into the university, will not solve all our problems. Saying, no, don't rush them, it will solve our problems. We have to design problems that are as complex, if you want to use that expression, as the problems we are trying to solve. And let me tell us the truth. One of the foundational problems we have today is that we don't have teachers who understand that teaching is a vocation. Teaching is not just a job. is a vocation. Teaching is a vocation. I can say it a million times. So if you don't if you don't understand that, then any other thing you're saying, all these other solutions we are designing, without looking at the people who drive the institutions, we are not going to get it right. I'm up for solutions, but let me tell you, what you are looking at is like you are looking at a car that is going on a very important journey, and then you do everything, paint the car, make sure the engine is okay and everything. I get a bad driver who cannot drive. You see, the teachers are defective. Like that is, a lot of teachers are not even qualified. They didn't study education. And those who study education are teaching because they don't have a choice. I train teachers, and teachers will tell you that I'm teaching because I don't have a better job. They are not happy. We have fundamental problems in our educational system. People are still, people study under mango trees, and governors are building flyovers, and their children are sitting in classrooms without roof. You see those things online, you think it's a joke. They are not jokes. They are building flyovers that nobody is using. And the children don't have classrooms, ordinary classrooms. They don't have desks. They don't have access to books. I saw two boys hawking in Anambra State.
All right.
And these boys said they're in secondary school and they are hawking, because I asked them, don't you go to school? That's this holiday, actually, a week ago. And they said they go to school. And I said, where? They said precisely in Ebonyi State. That's what they said. I'm quoting the last week. And I said, so what are you doing here? You should be in Ebonyi State. They said, we came here to hawk, to raise school fees. I said, of how much? They said, of 10,000. With all due respect to Ebonyi State, I didn't verify that Ebonyi State collects school fees. I don't know whether they're telling the truth. But I'm telling you that we have a myriad of problems. Those boys shouldn't be hawking. The boys were between 12 and 14. And I asked them, who are you living with? They said that they paid for a room. A few of them paid for a room, and they're living on their own. Small boys. So we need to look at our problems from a holistic perspective and design holistic solutions. So you are saying this is how we control age. This is how we control other factors that lead to the age, underage being the university problem. That if you think your child is gifted, this is where you go for us to help you verify and even help you guide that child, so that child will fit into the university, and help you even choose the appropriate university that will support that child when the child gets into that university. Let us not just say age 18, full stop. We are going to breed corruption. Parents will forge documents or get affidavits and still get into those schools. If you are making those announcements, begin to say, okay, age 18. If you think your child is gifted, go there. We'll do this, that. So create a solution that makes sense.
All right. So I think what we're ending at is age in isolation is not a true solution to all the issues, all the problems that they keep listing as some of the motivating factors for having the age pegged at 18. We have the regulators of the education sector also they have their own role to play. We have lecturers, their own role to play. Students, everyone has a role to play in ensuring that child education is done wholesomely. I think that's where we're ending this conversation at this morning. Thank you so much for your time and for speaking this morning.
Thank you. And I hope the policymakers are listening to the voice of the people, so that they will also work well for the people. Do have a wonderful, wonderful day.
All right. To you listening, we're switching over to sports for a bit. There's a bit of conversation about Chelsea finally submitting a formal letter for Victor Osimhen. This is 2 days. It's in two days before the end of the official transfer window, and we're seeing Chelsea finally submitting a formal offer for Napoli striker Victor Osimhen, or former. Should I say former?
No, he's still a Napoli player. He's under contract. Even if he doesn't go this season, he's got a contract that's keep. They don't get to sign a new lucrative deal last season. But anyway, we hear that he has decided not to go to Saudi Arabia. A certain ex-international brand with there said, "Come on, you don't take care of a family with trophies. That those who want it like they kept them in their houses. They don't pay bills, But he has had to, according to him and his agent Roberto Calenda, to stay put and find a way to play in Europe. We hear there is Paris Saint-Germain. We hear there's a certain Chelsea and Arsenal. Don't forget Arsenal in the market for a striker, at least from now to end of the season. Maybe they could go, do the deadline day magic and get him to sign over. But we're still looking at the whole issue. All we know is that Napoli think his surplus requirement. As we speak to you, Napoli are almost completing the deal to get back a certain Romelu Lukaku to work under Antonio Conte, and that means he's a no-no for the team. Wait and see. Like you said, 48 hours to go. Chelsea are putting an official bid. Would there be enough time to get it over the line? Only time will tell.
All right. Do we still have our transfer window show on the 31st night?
Absolutely. Every 31st night. The show will be on. I will be having our own show here absolutely on Saturday as well. And we'll give
That's
you
what I'm asking about.
exactly.
Our own show.
It's going to happen here on Saturday. Come on. From
Time.
10 to 12. Let's give it 10 to 12. Or 10 to 12:30. Let's say because some
PM?
deals PM, yeah. There's some deals that will not end that will go into the and if you in the transfer
early
window,
hours of the morning.
If you send in a letter to the FA, they can buy you an extra 1 hour. So I could stay here to 1 a.m. depending on my mood on that day. Exactly.
On how the transfer window is moving.
Exactly how it goes.
All right, we'll watch and see how that plays out. Meanwhile, we have conversations about the Carabao Cup third round. We have Arsenal, Manchester United, and Chelsea joining the competition.
Yeah.
Fans are in for a thrill. There's Arsenal hosting Bolton. There's Manchester United facing Barnsley, and Liverpool taking on West Ham. 2024-2025 Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait for to watch how this particular one plays.
I think the draws is quite good for the big boys. Liverpool, West Ham, Man City, Watford. I know you love that. Arsenal, Bolton Wanderers, Manchester United, Barnsley. So the big boys have got a fair draw. There is no, in quote, big clash in the third round, but as it progresses, at some point they would cancel each other out and get to meet. So I'm looking forward to getting the top 7 teams in England join up the Carabao Cup by the time the third round begins.
All right. We're in for a thrill for a couple of months.
Yeah.
We'll watch and see how all this
It's Operation Let Man City. Operation Let Man City not win again. That's my mantra for that one. Anyway, guys.
Look at them haters.
Exactly. Anyway, guys, let's quickly let you know as well that a certain Samson Siasia is in the news. He did a award press conference yesterday, and he announced his readiness to restart afresh after completing his ban imposing on him by FIFA. Speaking at the World Press Conference, he expressed gratitude to those who supported him during his challenging time, including Chief Siago Debami, Governor Duye Duri, Minister of FCA Yeson Wike, Abuja All Stars, among others. We hear that there was also, he also gave a big shout out to the General Manager of Mighty Jets, who also tried to get him to join the club. Also, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Loki Rabo, Government Owuzide, Tompolo as well, that is Bibidin Eshei, all of them were part of the people he was giving his thanks to. We hear that other notable attendees to the event was a certain Bola Salami, Brown Deye, and of course Chikelu Lonsi, the chairman of the FA, former ex-international chairman of the Anambra State FA. We hear about that. So we wish him all the best of luck. He's ready to go. He says the next for him is to kickstart his coaching career again, and we wish him all the best he can get in his career. More to come. We know, of course, signings here and there. Brentford have gotten Nunes. Watford, Wolverhampton Wanderers have signed Andre. Ipswich have got Obene, Chido was here for £8 million. Ramsdale could be heading all the way to Southampton for £25 million. We wait to see, but the deal has been agreed. Juventus officially signed Cup Miners from Atlanta for £6 million in the transfer market as well. And yes, Nunes has been given a 5-match ban and of course €20,000 for his altercation with the fans after the semi-final game against Colombia in the Copa America. To Nigeria quickly. Team Nigeria began their Paralympics. Guys, come on. I just hope they can surpass the 10 medals they won the last time out. Wait and see how they fare. But the Paralympics have officially begun. That I can let you know. Our own Justina Ekbewe has gone to the final of the 100 meters at the Under-20 World Athletics Championship. We hear that this is the 7th Nigerian to do so in the history. Wait to give her a wish all the best. She finished second in her heat. Hopefully she gets to do Nigeria proud as well. But yeah, who said to unveil his assistant for the Super Eagles of Nigeria, his foreign assistant. He has to pick between these 3 people, Edik Soze, Olaf Zoben, and of course Bernhard Tares. Those are the 3 managers he has to pick one from to become his assistant manager. CAF unveiled officially the new Super Cup. The winner of the CAF Champions League and the CAF Competition will battle for that one. A new cup, and we hear it could be held far away in Saudi Arabia. For one man is close to a deal to transfer sport. His name is Paul Onwachu. The deal is on. We hear it could happen as much time as possible. Victor Osimhen still in limbo. Al Ali says Al Ali said they're not giving up. They said they've tabled an improved bid on Victor Osimhen. We talked about him earlier on. Would he get to make that move, or would he be moving to the Premier League? Only time will tell. Arsenal as well will be getting a certain Garcia who comes into the players Aero Ramsdale. We'll wait and see how that pans out. But in Nigeria, Eyimba have said goodbye to 13 players. We'll let you know about that more around 5 p.m. On the show. And then before I go, I want to ask a simple question, guys. And the question is as simple as this. This is the question I'm going to be asking. Is Labadia the answer to the Super Eagles of Nigeria's catastrophic outing in the past 12 months? That's a big question as we count down to the game between, of course, the Cheetahs of Benin Republic and, of course, the Amavubis of Rwanda on the 7th and the 10th in Uyo and Kigali. Now, this is his record. The man has been sacked 4 times. He has never coached the national team. He has managed 9 league sides without a trophy, managed 487 games and won only 217. Ex-German striker with only 3 goals to his name. Played over 557 games for 8 different clubs, scoring 204 goals. Is this guy the answer to Nigeria's problem? I'll let you be the judge. That's how much I can take on Sport.
All right.
On Sport Lounge, on Sport Beat this morning.
I mean, we'll watch and see, or we'll watch and see how the game goes with Yeno Raw to see if he'll be the man for Nigeria. I don't know
whether
what
he wins
magic.
or not, he'll still be there. Whether we like it or not, yeah, come on.
All right, thank you so much for listening to The Arena right here on Voice of the People 96.1 FM. My name is Gesere, and of course, coming up next is Ingilibo.
Yeah.
Yes, Ingilibo coming up